And welcome to Business Line. When oil prices started falling in June 2014, the Organization of Oil Exporters, OPEC, did not intervene. The cartel didn't really hide its intentions to regain the dominant position in the global market, squeezing out the others, particularly shale producers. To achieve that, the OPEC countries have been pumping at their maximum. And only when they started feeling the pain from falling revenues did the oil producers say, for the first time, that there could be a compromise. But back then, OPEC and especially its leaders explained they would consider changing their policy, but only if the non-OPEC countries did the same. However, nobody really thought half a year ago that the cartel could reach agreement with its rivals, particularly Russia. And then suddenly they did agree to coordinate their strategies and met in Doha for the most anticipated talks of the last 2 years. But there was no deal. And this time, it was not the non-OPEC members' fault. Euronews correspondent Maha Barada was in Doha for what was seen as a decisive meeting.
Oil prices have tumbled and OPEC's credibility has been seriously undermined with the failure of talks to try to freeze the production of crude. A prospective deal involving 18 oil-exporting countries fell apart when Saudi Arabia said Iran must be a part of it. The host for the meeting in Qatar said more time was needed, and he pointed out production is actually falling.
Fundamentals are improving now, and oil is heading the right direction. How long it will balance itself, we are yet to see, but it is certainly in the right direction.
But it's not happening fast enough for the producers as the low prices hit their economies. The lack of a deal does, though, increase the financial pressure on US shale oil producers, whose increased output has been a major factor in the supply glut and price slump. The Euronews correspondent at the talks says disappointment that no deal was reached at this meeting here in Doha will mean an increase in the uncertainty on the financial markets and over oil prices. In the days before the producers' gathering, speculation about a positive outcome had improved the mood.
Euronews. The price of oil had risen in recent weeks, largely due to speculation that some major exporters would limit supply. From under $30 per barrel, crude rose to over $40, though it's still far from its peak of around $115 per barrel in June 2014. Given this significant price difference, even the biggest oil producers, whose costs are relatively low, have been feeling the pain. We cannot speculate on whether Saudi Arabia expected the oil freeze deal to come together or not, but the country, which has a significant cash safety net, has started working on a plan B in an attempt to diversify its commodity-dependent economy. According to numerous reports, in late February, several hundred Saudi officials, companies, executives and foreign consultants gathered in Riyadh to discuss how the country could survive an era of cheap oil. Allegedly, they came up with a National Transformation Plan, the NTP, which could cover the next 5 years. Sources familiar with the matter say not all the details have been completed, but this is the reported outline. Saudi Arabia could open up more than 10 sectors for possible privatization, even if it means sales of minority stakes. Up to 5% of the national oil giant Saudi Aramco might be sold. Special zones with attractive visa and tax policies could be created in the country to bring in private sector investment. At the same time, the Saudis would streamline regulations, making it easier to do business there. Saudi Arabia could also invest some of its impressive cash reserves in international markets for high returns. And of course, as any other commodity-dependent country, it would have to rethink its energy subsidies and taxes to rebalance the budget. These are the NTP's key issues, according to a Reuters report. So, if Saudi Arabia is being forced to rethink its policies, what about those countries that have less money and smaller currency reserves? Iran, which is heavily dependent on crude export, is finally returning to international markets after years of sanctions, and it doesn't want to miss the chance to catch up.
Iran's refusal to take part in the capping of oil output doomed the Doha deal as Tehran pushes ahead with plans to increase the amount of crude it pumps. The Iranians insist they're justified in not freezing output in order to regain their share of the oil market lost during years of economic sanctions over its nuclear program. The oil minister said a freeze or cut would be like imposing sanctions on themselves. Our correspondent in Tehran says Iran has announced any expectation that the country would cut its production is illogical under the circumstances, and it would not accept that. Iran plans to increase its exports to 2 million barrels per day. Right now, it's around 800,000 barrels per day short of that target. Officially, Iran's total crude output is due to reach 4 million barrels per day by March next year. Industry analysts expect it to be less than that, and for exports to only reach 2 million barrels by the end of next year. But that's still enough that a supply glut will keep prices depressed.
When was the last time you bought a CD? The world of music has been changing not only in terms of what we listen to, but also the way we do that. The music collections that used to take up so much space in our homes no longer do. And there's finally some good sales news for the industry. This is it. This is IT.
2015 was a landmark year for everyone who enjoys music, as digital songs outsold physical media for the very first time. That's according to the IFPI, a Swiss trade body that recently released its annual State of the Industry report. So, it's time for a sound check. Last year, global music revenues totaled $15 billion. That represented a 3.2% increase, the fastest growth rate since 1998. Definitely good news, as turnover had been sliding almost without interruption for more than a decade now. But the charts, the pie charts I mean, are changing fast. Digital music now accounts for 45% of total revenues, compared to 39% for physical sales. That's due mainly to the success of streaming services such as Spotify, Deezer, and Apple Music. Last year, revenues from these rose by 45% to almost $2.9 billion. Legal download sales, on the other hand, declined to $3 billion, and they could soon lose the position as the top digital revenue stream. Another thing worth mentioning is the increasing success of streaming subscriptions. Paid users rose from just 8 million in 2010, when data was first compiled, to 41 million in 2014. And last year, that number skyrocketed to 68 million. That was it. That was IT.
And that was it for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.